The corner office on the 42nd floor was my fortress, but today it felt like a cage. I stared at the donation request on my tablet, my finger hovering over the sender's name. Howard Foundation. My name is Nora, and 15 years ago, these people destroyed my life. Ms. Morgan? Aaliyah's voice cut through my thoughts as she entered with her usual grace. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Should I decline this request? I looked up at my assistant of 12 years, the only person who knew the full weight of what that name meant to me. Tell me what you found. She settled into the chair across from my desk, tablet in hand. They're desperate. The foundation's bleeding money, and the estate's facing foreclosure. They're reaching out to every major tech company in the region. Desperate, I echoed, tasting the word. Like living in your car desperate? Or more like having to sell the summer house desperate? Aaliyah's dark eyes met mine. They don't know it's you, do they? Behind Aurelia Tech? No. I stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I made sure of that when I built this company. Changed my name back to Morgan, kept my face out of the press. The memory hit me like a physical blow. That courtroom 15 years ago. My 8-year-old son's face twisted with confusion and hurt. Philip's small voice saying words that weren't his own. I don't want to live with her anymore. She doesn't love us. Only Daddy's money. Nora? Aaliyah's voice was gentle. What do you want to do? I turned, and my reflection in the glass showed a woman they wouldn't recognize. Gone was the grieving widow in bargain store clothes. In her place stood the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech empire, wearing Armani and Victory-like armor. Schedule the meeting, I said, my voice steady. But not here. Book the main boardroom downtown. The impressive one. Are you sure? After everything They won't recognize me, I cut in, returning to my desk. 15 years is a long time. Besides, they never really saw me. Just the gold digger they invented to steal my son. My phone buzzed. Angela from PR wanting to discuss our latest acquisition. Life moved on, deals were made, empires were built. But now the past had landed in my inbox, begging for scraps. When? I asked, already pulling up my calendar. They're pushing for this week? Thursday? I nodded, remembering another Thursday, years ago. The day Jacqueline and Tyson Howard stood in court, spinning tales about my mental instability, my greed, my unfitness as a mother. The day a judge believed them over me because they had money, influence, and a grieving grandson to parade around. Thursday's perfect. I smiled, and Aaliyah raised an eyebrow at my tone. Book it for 2. And Aaliyah? Make sure all 3 of them come. Jacqueline, Tyson, and Philip. All of them? Are you? I want to see their faces, I said, standing to gather my things for the board meeting. When they realize who they're begging for help. When they understand that the woman they tried to bury didn't just survive. She thrived. Aaliyah nodded slowly, making notes. And if they recognize you immediately? They won't. I checked my reflection in a small mirror, adjusting my perfectly styled hair. They're looking for the broken woman they left behind. The one who lost everything. That woman doesn't exist anymore. As Aaliyah turned to leave, she paused. What will you do, if they approve the donation? I picked up my tablet, allowing myself a small, cold smile. Schedule the meeting, Aaliyah. Let's give the Howards what they deserve. The click of my heels echoed through the corridor as I headed to the board meeting. Each step was measured, controlled, just like the revenge I'd waited 15 years to serve. They took everything from me once, my husband, my son, my dignity. Now they'd come to me, not knowing they were walking right into the flames. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. You're going to want to see this, Aaliyah said, dropping a newspaper on my desk. The headline screamed, Historic Howard Estate Faces Public Auction. I traced my finger over the photo of the mansion where I'd once lived, where I'd lost everything. They really are desperate. There's more. Aaliyah pulled up an email. They've increased their donation request. They need $5 million now, not 3. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. $5 million? I lived on $5 a day after they were done with me. The memory of those first months hit hard. I'd slept in my old Honda, showering at a gym where I cleaned toilets for membership. Every night I'd park in different spots to avoid the police, clutching a photo of Philip while trying not to cry. Tell me about that time, Aaliyah said softly, sitting down. You never talk about how you started, because it's not a pretty story. I stood up, walking to my private bar and pouring 2 coffees. Want to hear about rock bottom? Picture a storage unit. That's where Aurelia Tech was born. A storage unit? Unit 23B. It was all I could afford after the lawyers took everything. I set up a desk made from milk crates and a piece of plywood. That's where I wrote the code for our first program. Aaliyah accepted the coffee. How did you even get clients? Remember Peyton? The social worker who tried to help me keep Philip? I sat back down. She introduced me to a women's shelter director who needed a donation tracking system. I built it for free, but she recommended me to other nonprofits. And that's how I met Angela. I smiled, remembering. She was doing PR for one of the nonprofits. She saw what I was building and said, "Girl, you're thinking too small." The intercom buzzed. Speaking of Angela, she burst in without waiting for a response. "The Howards are making moves," she announced, waving her phone. "They're calling every contact they have, trying to get dirt on Aurelia Tech before the meeting." I leaned back in my chair. Let them dig. Everything about this company is clean. Cleaner than their courtroom tactics, Aaliyah muttered. Angela looked between us. What courtroom tactics? I pulled out my old laptop, the one thing I'd never upgraded. Opening a folder labeled Never Forget, I showed them the scanned documents. Forged medical evaluations claiming I was unstable. Paid off witnesses saying I was neglectful. Even a fake therapist's report saying I was a danger to Philip. My voice stayed steady, practiced. They used their money to create a perfect story. The unstable widow after the family fortune. Angela whistled low. And the judge bought it? Money talks. Truth walks. I closed the laptop. They had generations of influence. I had a dead husband and a minimum wage job. But now you have more than they ever did, Aaliyah said, her eyes gleaming. Speaking of which, Angela pulled up something on her tablet. Look who just turned up in our internship applications. I stared at the familiar face. Younger, serious, wearing wire-rimmed glasses. Philip applied here 6 months ago, before their financial troubles went public. He didn't get past the first round. My heart clenched. My son had tried to work for my company without knowing it was mine. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd want to hire him, Angela said gently, and that would have blown your cover. The intercom buzzed again. Ms. Morgan, the Howard's assistant is on line 1. They want to confirm Thursday's meeting. I pressed the button. Tell them it's confirmed. All 3 must attend, or there's no meeting. After hanging up, I turned to my friends. 15 years ago, I watched them drive away in their Mercedes while I counted quarters for gas. Now they're coming to me, thinking I'm just another CEO they can charm. Aaliyah gathered her things. What's the plan? The plan, I smiled, picking up the newspaper with its headline about their crumbling estate. The plan is to give them exactly what they deserve. Now, let's prepare for Thursday. I want everything perfect when I show them exactly who they're begging for help. Thursday arrived with the weight of 15 years. I stood at the boardroom window, watching their car pull up to the curb. Even from 40 floors up, I recognized Jacqueline's rigid posture, Tyson's measured stride. And Philip, my heart stuttered, so tall now, so much like his father. They're here, Aaliyah announced through the intercom. Security's bringing them up. I adjusted my blazer, checking my reflection one last time. The years had been kind to me, but more importantly, They'd been transformative. My hair was shorter, styled expertly. Designer glasses framed my eyes. Success had given me an edge they wouldn't recognize. "Send them in," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. "And Alia, stay close." The doors opened. Jacqueline entered first, her silver hair perfectly coiffed despite the obvious wear in her designer suit. Tyson followed, thinner than I remembered, his confidence brittle. And Philip, my hands clenched under the table, he moved like a stranger, all corporate polish and practiced charm. "Ms. Morgan?" Philip stepped forward, hand extended. "Thank you for meeting with us." I stood, shaking his hand firmly. He didn't flinch, didn't see his mother's eyes looking back at him. "Please, sit. I understand you have a proposal." They settled into their chairs, Jacqueline's eyes darting around the room, probably calculating its worth. Same old Jacqueline, always counting other people's money. "We represent the Howard Foundation," Tyson began, his voice carrying that familiar patronizing tone. "A prestigious family organization with deep roots in—" "I'm familiar with your foundation," I cut in smoothly. "You're facing foreclosure on your estate and seeking $5 million in donations. Let's not waste time on pleasantries." Jacqueline's spine stiffened. "We prefer to think of it as an investment opportunity." "Really?" I picked up my tablet. "Your foundation's financials suggest otherwise. You've approached 6 other companies this month alone." "Our situation is temporary," Philip interjected, leaning forward. "The Howard name still carries significant influence in—" "Does it?" I smiled, tapping my screen. "Because according to these reports, your influence hasn't prevented 3 failed business ventures, 2 tax audits, and a rather impressive amount of debt." The room temperature seemed to drop. Tyson's face flushed. "Now see here." "No, you see here." I stood slowly, my hands flat on the table. 15 years ago, you used your influence to destroy someone's life. You manipulated the courts, bought false testimonies, and stole a child from his mother. The color drained from Jacqueline's face. Philip's expression shifted from confusion to shock. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. "Think hard, Philip. Look at me. Really look." His eyes widened, recognition dawning like a slow, horrible sunrise. "No, it can't be." "Hello, son." My voice was steady, even as my heart raced. "It's been a while." "Impossible," Jacqueline whispered. You disappeared." "I didn't disappear. You buried me." I pressed a button, and screens around the room lit up with old court documents. "But I clawed my way out. Built this company from nothing while you were busy poisoning my son against me." Tyson stood abruptly. "This is outrageous. You'll what?" I challenged. "Use your money and influence?" "Look around, Tyson. I'm the one with money and influence now." Philip hadn't moved, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "All these years, they said you abandoned us, that you only wanted Dad's money. And you believed them." I kept my voice level, professional. "Just like you believed them when they coached you to tell the judge I didn't love you." "That's enough," Jacqueline snapped, but her voice trembled. "We're leaving." "Of course you are." I smiled coldly. "But first, let me be clear. There will be no donation. Not today, not ever. The Howard Foundation can burn to the ground for all I care." They gathered their things in stunned silence. At the door, Philip paused, turning back. "Mom." "You don't get to call me that," I said quietly. "Not anymore." After they left, Aaliyah entered with a glass of water. "Are you okay?" I watched through the window as they emerged onto the street below, their world visibly shaken. I've waited 15 years to see their faces when they realized who I became. And now," I said, turning away from the window, "we're just getting started." The aftermath of the meeting left the office eerily quiet. I sat at my desk, staring at nothing, when Angela burst in. "They're already making moves," she announced, dropping into a chair. Jacqueline's calling every business contact she has left, trying to dig up dirt on you. I laughed hollowly. Let her try. I built this company clean. There's something else. Aaliyah appeared in the doorway, her expression troubled. I need to tell you something. About Philip. My stomach tightened. What about him? She crossed to my desk, pulling an old shoebox from her bag. I've been keeping these for years, waiting for the right moment. Inside were letters, dozens of them. My hands shook as I picked up the first one. The childish handwriting was unmistakable. Dear Mom, I read aloud, my voice cracking. Grandma says you don't want to see me, but I don't believe her. I miss you. They're all from him, Aaliyah said softly. Written over 3 years, starting when he was 10. Jacqueline intercepted them at their P.O. box. My cousin worked at their post office. The room spun. He wrote to me? All this time, I thought. There's more, Angela interrupted, her phone buzzing. Philip's downstairs. Security just called. He's demanding to see you. I stared at the letters, fury building in my chest. Send him up. Minutes later, Philip stood in my office, looking less polished than before. His tie was loose, hair slightly disheveled. You ruined everything, he started, but I cut him off. Did I? I held up one of his letters. Or did they? He froze, recognition flickering across his face. Where did you get those? You wrote to me. For 3 years, you wrote to me. I spread the letters across my desk. But your grandmother made sure I never got them, just like she made sure you believed I abandoned you. That's not... He picked up a letter, scanning it. I remember writing these. She said you sent them back unopened. When have I ever not wanted you? My voice cracked. They took everything from me, my husband, my home, my son. And then they made you believe I was the villain. Philip sank into a chair, letter still in hand. The therapist, the one who testified you were unstable, was paid off, I finished. Just like the witnesses who claimed I was neglectful. Your grandparents bought their perfect story with perfect lies. Why didn't you fight harder? His voice was small, almost childlike. I fought until I had nothing left. Lived in my car, worked 3 jobs, sold everything I owned to pay lawyers. I pushed another letter toward him. While I was doing that, they were poisoning you against me. He read more letters, his hands trembling. I remember writing this one, after I won the science fair. I wanted to tell you. I never knew. I swallowed hard. I never knew you still wanted me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with 15 years of manufactured hatred. What happens now? He finally asked. Now? I stood, walking to the window. Now I finish what today started. Your grandparents are going to learn what it feels like to lose everything. They're still my family. And I was your mother. I turned back to him. But they made sure you forgot that. His phone buzzed. Probably Jacqueline demanding answers. He ignored it. The company, he said suddenly. When I applied for the internship, I didn't know. Angela handled it. I met his eyes. You didn't get it because of your qualifications, not because of me. He nodded slowly, gathering the letters. Can I keep these? They're yours. They always were. I watched him stand, straighten his tie. Philip, when you're ready to hear the whole truth, come back. I'll tell you everything. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For what I said in court that day. You were 8. They gave you words that weren't yours. I turned back to my desk. But now you're a man, and your words are your own. Choose them carefully. After he left, Aaliyah brought me a coffee. Are you okay? No, I admitted, touching one of the letters he'd left behind. But I will be. Once they understand exactly what they've done. I found her, Angela announced, striding into my office early Monday morning. Peyton McCarthy, the social worker who tried to help you keep Philip. My heart jumped. Where? She runs a nonprofit downtown, helping single mothers get back on their feet, ironically. Angela handed me an address. She's expecting you. An hour later, I stood outside a modest office building. The sign read, New Beginnings Family Support. Taking a deep breath, I pushed through the door. Peyton looked exactly the same, just grayer at the temples. She froze when she saw me, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Nora? She set the cup down carefully. My God, look at you. Hello, Peyton. I managed a smile. It's been a while. She hurried around her desk, pulling me into a tight hug. A while? 15 years? I tried to find you after everything. I know, I couldn't. I pulled back, composing myself. I need to ask you something. About the custody case. Her face darkened. Sit down. I've been waiting 15 years to tell you the truth. We settled onto a worn couch in her office. She pulled out an old file from her desk. I kept copies, she said, opening it. After what they did, I knew someday someone would need to know the truth. What exactly did they do? Everything. Her hands shook slightly. They threatened my job, my license, said they'd make sure I never worked in social services again. But that wasn't the worst part. What was? They threatened my daughter. Peyton's voice hardened. Said they'd make sure she lost her scholarship to medical school. That's how they operated. Finding pressure points, exploiting weaknesses. I felt sick. So you changed your testimony. I had no choice, but I kept everything. She handed me the file. Original assessments, notes from our meetings, proof you were an excellent mother. And this, she pulled out a DVD. Security footage from their house, the day they coached Philip before the court hearing. Made him practice saying you didn't love him. My hands clenched around the file. You have proof? Everything. I couldn't use it then. But now? She smiled grimly. I hear they're not so powerful anymore. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Aaliyah. Emergency. Jacqueline's called a press conference. Tomorrow morning. They're going to try to destroy my company, I said, standing. Turn public opinion against me before I can use any of this. Let them try. Peyton stood too. I'm ready to testify. About everything. No more threats, no more silence. Back at the office, Angela was waiting with more news. They're claiming you built your company with stolen Howard money, that you're using your position to pursue a personal vendetta. I laughed. Perfect. Let them make accusations. Every lie they tell will make the truth hit harder. What truth? Angela asked. I placed Peyton's file on the desk. The truth about how they destroyed a grieving widow, stole her child, threatened a social worker, all of it documented, all of it provable. My phone buzzed again. A message from Philip. We need to talk. Privately. Set up a lunch meeting, I told Aaliyah. Somewhere public. Are you sure that's wise? She asked. No. I picked up the DVD Peyton had given me. But he deserves to see who his grandparents really are. Angela was scrolling through her phone. Jacqueline's press conference is set for 9 a.m. tomorrow. They're going all out. Full media coverage. Good. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let them throw their best punch, because when I hit back, I'm taking everything. And Philip? Aaliyah asked softly. What about him? I looked at the security footage in my hands, proof of how they'd manipulated my 8-year-old son into destroying his own mother. Philip needs to make his own choice, I said finally. But first, he needs to know exactly who he's choosing between. I turned to the window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. Tomorrow, Jacqueline would try to destroy me again. But this time, I was ready. This time, I had the truth. And the truth, unlike the Howards, had no mercy. The cafe was quiet for lunch hour. Philip sat across from me, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. Between us, my laptop displayed the security footage Peyton had provided. "Play it," he said quietly. I pressed play. The footage showed a living room I knew too well. 8-year-old Philip sat on the couch while Jacqueline paced before him. "Again!" Her voice crackled through the speakers. "Say it again." "My mom doesn't love me," young Philip recited woodenly. "She only wanted Daddy's money." "More emotion," Jacqueline instructed. "The judge needs to believe it." Present-day Philip's hand shook as he reached for his water. "Stop. Please." I closed the laptop. "There's more. Hours of it." "I remember." He swallowed hard. "I remember being confused. They kept saying you were sick, dangerous, that you'd hurt me if they didn't protect me." While they were saying that, I was sleeping in my car. I pushed a coffee cup toward him. Working 3 jobs. Fighting for even supervised visits. "Grandma said you never showed up for the visits. They scheduled them when I was working, then told the court I was negligent for missing them." I pulled out Peyton's file. "Your social worker documented everything, before they threatened her daughter to change her testimony." He flipped through the papers, his lawyer's eyes catching details. This would have changed everything. That's why they buried it." I watched his face carefully. "Just like they buried your letters to me." The cafe door chimed. A couple walked in, laughing. Normal people living normal lives, untouched by the kind of calculated cruelty that had destroyed mine. "The press conference tomorrow," Philip said suddenly. "They're going to say terrible things about you." "I know. They want me to speak, to confirm their story about you stealing family money." I set down my cup carefully. "Will you?" "I don't know who to believe anymore." He looked up, and for a moment I saw my little boy in his eyes. "Everything I thought I knew?" "Believe the evidence," I said firmly. "Believe Peyton, who kept these records at great personal risk. Believe your own letters, written before they could poison every memory." His phone buzzed. Jacqueline's face lit up the screen. He declined the call. "What happens if I don't speak tomorrow?" "They'll cut you off. Disown you." I knew their playbook by heart. "Just like they did to your father when he first married me." "What?" His head snapped up. "They never told you. They disapproved of me, the scholarship student your father fell in love with. Cut him off for 6 months until Jacqueline decided she could mold me into proper society wife material. Dad never said, 'Your father protected me from a lot of their cruelty.' After he died," I trailed off, the old pain surfacing. "Well, you know what happened after." Philip stood abruptly, pacing beside our table. "I have to go. I need to think." "Before you do," I pulled out a business card. "There's an entry-level position opening in our development team next month. Your previous application showed promise." He stared at the card. "You're offering me a job? After everything?" "I'm offering you a chance to make your own way. No family name, no expectations." I stood gathering my things. "Think about tomorrow, about which truth you want to tell." At the door, he turned back. "What will you do when they attack you tomorrow?" What I should have done 15 years ago. I met his eyes steadily. "Fight back, with everything I have." He nodded slowly, then walked away. I watched him go, remembering another walk away. A small boy led from a courtroom, looking back at me with confused tears. My phone buzzed. "Angela, Jacqueline's people are setting up at the press venue. We need to prepare our response." I texted back, "Get everyone in the war room. It's time." Tomorrow Jacqueline would try to bury me again. But this time, I had truth on my side. And unlike their carefully constructed lies, the truth had receipts. Let them come for me. I was ready. The press conference room buzzed with anticipation. I watched from my office as Jacqueline took the podium on the live feed, her face set in practiced concern. "Ready?" Angela asked, finger hovering over the button that would launch our counterattack. "Wait for it," I said, watching Jacqueline begin her performance. "It pains me to reveal that Aurelia Tech's CEO has been pursuing a vendetta against our family," Jacqueline announced, her voice trembling perfectly. "She built her company with stolen family funds." "Now," I commanded. Angela pressed the button. Simultaneously, every major news outlet received our digital package: court documents, financial records, Peyton's testimony, and the security footage. My phone lit up. "Ms. Morgan, every network is asking for comment." "Send them to the conference room," I instructed. "It's time." I stepped into the elevator, Aaliyah and Angela flanking me. The doors opened to reveal a mob of reporters already gathering. "Ms. Morgan, what's your response to the accusations?" I took the podium, my voice steady. 15 years ago, Jacqueline and Tyson orchestrated the destruction of a grieving widow. Today, I'm here to show you how. The screens behind me flickered to life, showing young Philip being coached for his testimony. "My God," someone whispered as the footage played. "Every document we've provided has been verified," I continued, "including evidence of witness tampering, perjury, and financial fraud, spanning decades." Phones started buzzing throughout the room as the story exploded online. A reporter shot up. "Is it true you're the widow in question?" "Yes. My name was Nora Howard then. They took my son, my home, and tried to destroy me." I smiled coldly. "They failed." The doors burst open. Philip walked in, ignoring the cameras turning his way. "Mom," he called out clearly, making reporters gasp, "I'd like to make a statement." I stepped aside, my heart pounding as my son took the podium. "Everything she's saying is true," he announced. "I was coached to lie in court, manipulated into believing my mother abandoned me. I'm here to set the record straight." Cameras flashed frantically. Somewhere across town, I knew Jacqueline was watching her carefully constructed world crumble. My phone buzzed. "Tyson calling." I declined it with savage satisfaction. "Furthermore," Philip continued, "I'm formally severing ties with the Howard Foundation. Their legacy is built on lies and cruelty, and I want no part of it." The room erupted in questions. Through the chaos, Philip turned to me. "I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth." Before I could respond, Angela rushed forward. "Jacqueline's had a stroke. She collapsed during her press conference. The news should have brought satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow. Make sure she gets medical attention." "After everything they did," Aaliyah whispered. "We're not them," I said firmly. "Call their family doctor. Send help." The reporters surged forward with fresh questions, but I was already moving. Philip followed me to my office. "What happens now?" he asked as the door closed behind us. "Now?" I looked at my son, really looked at him. "Now we try to rebuild what they destroyed." "I'd like that job," he said quietly. "The entry-level position. I want to earn my place. It starts Monday. Don't be late." He nodded, turning to leave, then stopped. "They're going to lose everything, aren't they?" "Yes." I didn't sugarcoat it. "The evidence we released, there's no coming back from this." "Good." His voice was firm. "They deserve it." After he left, I stood at my window, watching the media frenzy below. 15 years of waiting, planning, building toward this moment. My phone buzzed again. A text from Peyton. "Justice at last." Yes, justice. But as I watched reporters swarm the Howard estate on live TV, as I saw Tyson being led away by police for questioning, as headlines screamed about the family's downfall, I felt strangely empty. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was necessary, like cauterizing a wound. The satisfaction wasn't in their destruction, but in finally being heard. The truth had won, and that would have to be enough. The autumn wind whipped around me as I stood outside the hospital. Through the window, I could see Jacqueline in her bed, diminished and pale. Tyson sat beside her, His shoulders slumped under the weight of their ruined legacy. "You don't have to do this," Angela said, touching my arm. "Yes, I do." I straightened my spine. For me, not for them. The hospital corridor felt endless. When I entered the room, Tyson jumped up, positioning himself between me and Jacqueline's bed. "Haven't you done enough?" he demanded. "I brought something." I pulled out the stack of Philip's childhood letters. "She kept these from me. Now I'm returning them." Jacqueline's eyes opened. Even weakened by the stroke, her gaze held that familiar steel. "Come to gloat?" "No." I placed the letters on her bedside table. "I came to say goodbye." "We lost everything," Tyson said bitterly. "Are you happy now?" "Happy?" I laughed softly. "You still don't understand. This was never about happiness. It was about truth." Jacqueline's hand trembled as she reached for the letters. "Philip is doing well at Aurelia Tech," I finished. "Entry-level position. No special treatment. He's earning his own way." "Our grandson," she whispered, "working for you." "No, working for himself." I moved toward the door. "That's the difference between us, Jacqueline. You see people as possessions. I see them as people." A knock interrupted us. Philip stood in the doorway, still in his work clothes. "Mom, you ready?" Tyson's head snapped up at the word Mom. Jacqueline's monitors beeped faster. "Just finishing," I said. Philip entered, his presence filling the small room. "Grandma, Grandpa, I've signed the papers. The estate sale proceeds will cover most of your debts. The rest," he shrugged, "you'll have to figure out on your own." "You can't abandon us," Jacqueline protested weakly. "Like you made me abandon my mother." His voice was quiet but firm. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm choosing truth over lies." Finally, we left them there, surrounded by beeping machines and fading power. In the parking lot, Philip stopped me. "I found something in the estate, while clearing out Dad's old office." He pulled out a worn envelope. "It's for you. From Dad." My hands shook as I opened it. Donovan's familiar handwriting jumped out at me. "My dearest Nora, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. My parents will try to take everything. They always do. Don't let them take our son. Fight them with everything you have. And know that I loved you, truly and completely, despite their disapproval. Forever yours, Donovan." "He knew," I whispered. "He knew what they'd try to do." "He tried to protect you," Philip said softly. "Even after he was gone." My phone buzzed. Aaliyah reminding me about dinner with Peyton and Angela. Life moving forward, as it always did. "Join us?" I asked Philip. He smiled. Donovan's smile. "I'd like that." Later that evening, sitting around my dining room table with the people who'd helped me survive and triumph, I felt something shift inside me. Not happiness, exactly. Something stronger. Peace, maybe. "To truth," Angela raised her glass. "To family," Philip added. "The ones we choose." "To justice," Peyton smiled. "To all of it," I said, looking at my son, really my son again, across the table. "And to new beginnings." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere in a hospital room, the Howards faced their new reality. Their empire had crumbled. But mine? Mine was built on stronger foundations than money or power. It was built on truth, on resilience, on the kind of love that survives even the darkest nights. And that was worth more than revenge could ever be. "Mom?" Philip's voice pulled me back. "Tell me about Dad? The real stories? Not their versions?" I smiled, feeling the last pieces of my heart click into place. "Of course. Let me tell you about the day we met." The night stretched ahead, full of stories waiting to be told, truths waiting to be shared, and wounds finally beginning to heal.